Caesar de Bello Gallico 542. So after Cicero had said, "Oh, I'll take care of you, buddies, good thousands and millions of enemy Gauls," the Gauls didn't get what they wanted. So the Nervii, having been repulsed from this hope, they cinch round, they surround the object phrase, winter quarters ablative means phrase with a wall. What kind of wall? 11 of feet, genitive of space, I guess you could say, genitive of description. So they build a wall. This is called a circumvallation, building a wall around something you're occupying. That way people can't get out. You can't get out for foraging and food. You can't send out messages. It's very tough. And a ditch of 15 feet. Now, what does that mean? It's either the wall is 9 feet tall, which is pretty good, but more likely this is the ditch, not necessarily in terms of breadth, how wide the ditch is before the wall, but in terms of how deep the ditch is. So though they took the dirt from 15 feet, digging, and then they piled it on top. That's how they got the space for the wall of dirt. So therefore, your height of the wall is 9 feet, but with the ditch beforehand, 26 feet. That's really tall. That would be 2 stories at our school. So that's pretty smart, Caesar says. That's right, because they had known, or they had learned, accusative neuter plural, these things, and also, probably adverb, from our men by the custom of earlier years. Remember, by the Gauls and the Nervii had been allies, so they'd also picked up some of these skills. And Nocti, having gained. Oh my goodness, there's an earlier one.
Chapter 41.
We got to stop that. There we go. And they had gained some captives, right? And having got some captives out of our army, were being taught by these guys. So what does that mean? When they took Roman prisoners, they said, let's figure out your skills before we put you into the big wicker man and light you on fire. So sadly enough, knowledge is power. But there was no supply of iron tools for these things. No hoes, no digging, no hacking, which might be fit for this use. Subjunctive potential. So, called which would be fit. Actually, this is probably a relative clause of characteristic, describing the relative, but also it's got a purpose for result. I think result, which would be fit for this use. So they were forced to what? To circumcutere, to cut around the kespetem, the turf, cut the earth with their what? With their swords. Oh my goodness. And to draw out the earth with their hands and with their cloaks. Notice Caesar taking away that que again. Out of which thing indeed, the multitude of men, potuit, was able to be known. So from this very fact, we can tell how big they were. For in less than ablative of comparison, I think, less than 3 hours, they finished the fortification, 15,000 of paces in compass, or in circuit. What does that mean? The wall and the ditch are 15,000 paces. Now, that's a tough one on that distance. Some suggest that the possum should be read as pedum, 15,000 feet, which is about 3 miles for the Romans. 5,000 miles goes into a 5,000 feet go into a mile. That could be we could take this passage that that maybe the wall is larger than the original camp. The original camp is pretty small, probably a square mile, maybe 2 square miles. So I would say that that the Gauls are giving space for fighting in the middle of it, and they began complement clause to prepare and to make towers, ablative of time on the remaining days to the height of the rampart. Now, what does that mean? Probably that these are siege towers, just like the Romans built towers. The towers give them, with physics, greater height and the ability to fire their spears or throw their spears a farther distance. So a tower that is of the same height as the wall is a question mark. So I guess that these towers would extend beyond the wall. They also made scythes, and testudines. It says mantlets. That's pretty funny. Um, the Gauls were iron workers, so they set their smiths up to make mantlets. What's a mantlet? Well, a testudo is a shed on wheels with a covered roof, possibly of metal, maybe of clay, and that mantlet or a little shack would move forward while you had guys underneath digging into, probably with their scythes, probably their hoes and picks, digging the dirt of the wall. These are called sappers, which they these same captives, that the same Roman prisoners, had taught them how to do. I said, well, this is how we do it. So Cicero is being confronted with an incredibly large force, a force that could build a wall and ditch of, creating 26 feet in height, relative height, 15 miles, 15,000 of paces around. Plus, they were able to get it done. How soon? 3 hours, which means it's an interesting geometry problem. How much space is handled? How many men would it be? The purpose of this is Cicero is sorely outnumbered. It's not like the Eburones, a small tribe that catches them. They've got the Eburones, the Nervii, the Arawatuki, and all their other townships. So it doesn't look so good for Cicero and his Roman boys out there in winter quarters.